Welcome back to TDK12.net, practical advice for expats and those working overseas, especially working in international education. On this episode, I would like to just talk about two issues. It's not the normal bullet list I have. These are just some opinions I've formed over the years. And recently, with issues in China and the coronavirus, I thought it would be important to talk about. So let's jump right in. Issue number one, social media and getting information from social media, especially if you're looking for jobs. And issue number two will be school review websites. Over the last few weeks, I've been monitoring a variety of social media threads and posts. I generally do not engage. Why don't I engage? I don't engage because simply engaging is usually a negative experience. Because when I engage with any kind of post, I normally want to ask a question. I want to follow up and clarify what's being said, what's being asked, or what's being requested. And the last one is really important. Is something being requested? Are people asking for help? Are they asking for something? When I ask a question, even if it's very neutral, the replies are generally hostile or they are very short, meaning no one has really even taken a moment to read my question. They're just responding and trying to re-explain the question to me. If you're involved in any kind of social media conversation and something like this happens, you can be fairly certain that what you're involved in is not real, or the information is lacking, or you're involved in a scam. I'm bringing this up because whenever there is a disaster or some type of horrible thing that happens, there is a lot of stress and a lot of panic, and we're all aware of that. There are also a lot of people trying to take advantage of the situation. And I started thinking about this Wuhan virus, and I started seeing some posts, and someone posted something that was very nice and very genuine, and I looked into their background. I always look into people's backgrounds because it's not that hard to do. You just look at their social media, previous posts, look at their LinkedIn. Normally they say what school they work at, so you can verify that. If you can't do those three things, at least two of those three things, something's wrong. Like, you should be able to verify who people are, especially if they're working at an international school where most schools have staff directories of some kind. They have some type of staff listing, or the person's name will be listed on a blog post. There's information. I normally just ignore things, but this was a request. Like, they were asking for help, so I want to make sure that it's real. And I asked a couple of questions. A couple of the people who responded to me were short and they weren't really listening to what I was saying. And they were recycling this post through their feeds as if they were posting it. One of the people recycling this post, I decided to look at their previous Facebook posts. And I found two posts that they were involved in that were definitely scams or misinformation. 100% scams and misinformation. And they still, to this day, don't have any idea, or they would have taken them down. It didn't take me long to disprove them either. These are just things that people get caught up in and they don't really pay attention, but it's in a group of a bunch of teachers and a bunch of people working overseas, and who knows what other groups they're in. And they seem genuinely like they're a nice person, and so people are going to read that and they're going to believe it. My only advice is simply not to engage with social media. You can glance at it. If you see something that seems interesting, you must verify it. If you cannot verify it, just move on. Social media isn't research, and social media isn't fact. And sometimes it's really hard to actually get facts. With this Wuhan situation, the data that's coming out and going back and forth between different people and is very ambiguous, and people will post things like, oh, it's not as dangerous as the flu, or why are we worried? It takes a lot of time to research these things. I personally decided to get into some documentation on the coronavirus, um, and I try to share that information through a Facebook private message, not post, private message to two people who were also doing research. Facebook removed my link because it connected to an archive of data that they thought was inappropriate. It's research material going back to the late 60s on different types of coronaviruses. So, what I'm saying is, trying to privately circulate scientific papers was blocked. People posting ridiculous, opinionated statistics is allowed. That's all you really need to know. It's not whether or not I know anything about the coronavirus or I know anything about if it's more dangerous than the flu. What you need to know is when I was trying to circulate lots of documentation so people could do independent research and I was doing it privately, it was stripped and removed. And I think that is enough evidence for everybody to take a step back away from social media. If you want to ask people how things are going in their cities and get like field reports from your friends, I think that is fine. But the second it goes out into public, it can be manipulated, it can be edited, so people can edit their posts, right? They can post something and edit it as things come out so it looks like it's always been correct. There is a lot of misinformation. When it comes to using social media for asking about schools, it's okay. I mean, usually someone will comment and write back to you and give you, their opinion. But keep in mind that if a school has, let's say a school has 1,000 students total, and it's been running 10 years, that's a lot of employees that have gone through that school. And you might be able to connect with one or two. And this leads me into the next topic, which is international school review sites or just in general job review websites. If I was looking to move overseas, I would definitely sign up for a couple of subscriptions and scan information about schools. However, I haven't ever really made a decision based on any of that information. The total number of people who have ever worked at a school greatly exceeds the number of people who complain. And usually, if a school is good or bad, there's a better way to tell, and I'll get into that in a minute. If you have found a job that meets your financial priorities, and you need to meet your financial priorities first. So you need to look at your money, your cash flow, what you need to pay off your debts, to grow, to retire. You need to look at all of that first. So if you found a job that meets those goals for you, if you found a job that allows you to work towards other goals, maybe it's professional development, maybe it's the location you're living in, maybe working at this job also affords you the ability to participate in some kind of hobby or some kind of sport. If the job is giving you the ability to meet your priorities and to reach your goals, you don't need your job to be perfect. You don't need to love it every day. You don't need to care if your boss is like the greatest person in the world. That doesn't matter. You're going to go to work, do your job, go home, you're going to have great holidays, you're going to make enough money, and you're going to be working towards something else. You're not there usually, if you're overseas working as an expat, you're not there for life. After year one, you've got 4 more years left. After year 2, it just keeps going down and down. So you'll start refocusing on your next move, on your next job. You don't need to worry so much. It's all temporary. So when you look at some of these angry posts, keep in mind that that person was probably really angry, didn't think about what they were doing, and just posted something. Another thing that you need to realize is that even if a school is not great, most people who are smart don't say anything about it anyway. And this is why. If I'm at school A and it's not fantastic, and actually I know as an educator it's a bad level of education, and I want to go to school B, the last thing I want is for school B to think school A is bad. School B doesn't want people from bad schools. School B wants people who have been at good schools or better schools. They want to grow. They want people who know what they're doing and who've worked with people who know what they're doing. Most schools don't want to hire people from incompetent schools. So even if a school is grossly incompetent, you probably wouldn't know because smart people just move on. I've worked with my wife at a couple of schools, And I've gone months and thought, man, this place is horrible. My wife's like, you're stupid. This place is great. And she's right. She was always right. And then she would go through like a month or two of this place is horrible. I'm like, no, it's not. This place is great. Same thing. Your perspective changes, but then we start talking about the next holiday, what we're going to do in the future. Are we going to buy some property? Are we going to go on a trip? Because our job is providing us with the ability to live our lives. Our job is not our life. And I think that that's a big takeaway. If you want to know if a school is a good school or not, there's only one way to do it. You've got to find a voice in the parent community. There are forums, especially if you're going to a school where expats are going to the school. So if you're in a country where you're at a school that has a mixture of kids from different countries, odds are those kids are from parents whose companies have brought them overseas. And those parents have gone onto a forum before they moved and said, hey, other parents that already live there, tell me about this place. That gives you really good information. The way parents talk about and rate schools, I find it to be pretty valuable. Also, you can find students who have graduated if the school has a high school and they're talking about it. So getting that parent-student perspective is great. Getting a media perspective is also great. So if the school is involved in big public events, like maybe their choir performs somewhere, or maybe their sports teams are really good, or maybe they host a lot of authors, they're going to be in the media. Schools that are generally in the media and have a lot of events going on and are constantly engaged with the public, they're not going to be bad places to work because they're open. People are there all the time. And let me tell you, if a school starts to get a bad reputation, they start to lose parents. It is possible that a school can be somewhere where they're the only game in town, so they can get away with being not great education for a while, but not forever, because running a school, even a nonprofit school, can be profitable. And the second a parent doesn't like the school and that parent has enough money and enough time, they will start a competing school. I've seen this happen. Or a big company that opens for-profit schools will see an opening in the market and you're like, oh, but it's a for-profit school, so why would they care about education? Because schools that produce good students that have a good reputation can generally charge more money and you can make more money. It's really that simple. So I'm not saying for-profit schools are better. I'm just saying that there are people who are looking all over the world all the time to open schools, and they're going to run them for profit, and they're going to look for a gap in the market. Like this school, it's been running for 10 years. It's the only school in the area. Nobody likes it. Like everybody goes there. There's a lot of money going in. It looks really nice. People complain about the education. SAT scores are bad. Kids aren't able to get into universities they want to. There's an opportunity for us. Or they don't have a preschool or they don't have a kindergarten. We'll start with that and we'll build on it. Gap in the market, people exploit it. Good schools are good businesses, and they know that their business is education. They want to maintain a good flow of employees. They don't want high turnover. They want normal turnover. So they understand that those things have to come first, or they're going to lose business. And when a school starts to lose business, the heads roll and change, and the principals roll and change. And normally that's what people complain about, the head of school or the principal. I've read probably 100 international school review reviews, and sometimes I would just read them for research on how people write these things. The reviews complaining, and this is really common, the head of school is out of touch. You never see the head of school. I can tell you that when I was doing some leadership certification not too long ago, one of the biggest indicators of a poorly run organization is that you would either see A, board members, or B, the head of school walking around all the time. They are not supposed to do that. Board members should not be on campus really at all, and the head of school should be super busy. The head of school usually, if you see them walking around and socializing, is looking for something else. So they're being nice and friendly and checking on stuff, but they also might be doing some kind of audit, or they just need a break. They need to get out of their office. They want to connect back with the kids and the teachers. But you shouldn't see your head of school that much. You shouldn't be in meetings with your head of school. If your school's tiny and your principal is your head of school, maybe. But if you're at a big campus, your head of school's going to be busy. You see them twice a year when school opens and maybe at the Christmas party, and maybe when school closes, maybe not even when school closes. Great. You need to be in regular contact with whoever your line managers are. So if you're a teacher, you're going to be talking to your department head and your principal and your vice principal. Great. Those people should be regular contacts. If you're a teacher and you never see your vice principal, your head of department, or your principal, that's bad. If you're on the senior admin team, you're going to see the head of school all the time. But you also wouldn't see math department teachers all the time. That wouldn't make sense because you don't have time to do that. I promised to explain the best way for you to research a school. And here's the best way to research a school. You need to find where parents are discussing the school. You need to look for forums. They're usually expat forums where parents with children in the school are discussing the school, and they're also discussing the other schools that they've compared to. They have gone on tours, they've met with admissions people, they may even have students in more than one school. Sometimes in places like the UAE, finding a slot in a school is difficult, especially mid-year, so families end up putting one child in one school and one child in another. This is the best place for you to find information. Look at what parents are saying. In addition, go to each school's website. See how connected they are to the community. Then research that school through the local media. See if they're participating in events. See if they're connecting off campus. See if they're raising their profile. Schools that are participating in the community, raising their profile, inviting guest authors and speakers, those schools are generally heading in the right direction. They're not afraid of their model. They're open. They're trying to get people to come check them out. That means that they're not afraid of judgment and they feel like what they're doing is good. Schools that are very insular, you have to wonder why. Why is it so hard to get a guest speaker? Well, it's not. Why is it so hard to get a guest author? Well, it's not. So why aren't they doing it? Aren't these positive things for students? Do they have plays? Are they playing sports? Are they inviting the public to anything? All of this is important. It helps you understand what kind of community you're going into. In summary, don't get wrapped up in this echo chamber. Don't get stuck in some weird social media conversation where someone's telling you you shouldn't go to a country because of, the politics, or when they lived there, they were, discriminated against at the school and there's no evidence of anything. They just had a really bad experience. Also, don't get sucked into international school reviews unless the reviews are very current and unless their reviews are very numerous. And I don't think you'll find that combination most of the time. Keeping perspective is very important. Remember, the reason that you're taking these jobs or applying for these jobs has very little to do with whether or not you think your line manager or the head of school is an amazing person. In most cases, you're not working for Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, and truthfully, you probably wouldn't want to. In most cases, you're an educator or you work in education, and you're working at a school, and every school is different, and you're doing it because it's financially rewarding, it's adventurous, it's meeting other life goals. And that should be your priority, not whether or not you feel like your principal can be your best friend, or if a handful of people on Facebook have told you that the school is not what they advertise it to be and you should avoid it. Make good decisions based on data that you can get and confirm, and make decisions based on what your needs are and whether or not the job fulfills your needs. Even an amazing school may not fulfill some of your needs, and going that way is also not a good idea. You simply won't be happy, you won't be settled, and you'll be looking to make a move before you realize it. Thank you for listening to this episode of TDK12.net. Please like, this channel and subscribe to it if you're listening and watching on YouTube. And please like and comment if you're listening and watching from other places. Thank you.